Welcome to A Leader's Story, where we explore the unique paths of extraordinary leaders. In each episode, we ask the same 7 questions to our guest, revealing the diverse journeys and insights that shape their success. Join us as we uncover the stories that make each leader's experience truly one of a kind. Today, we are extremely happy to have Keri Carkeek, a dynamic leader with over 2 decades of experience in the tech industry. Most recently, Keri served as the Integration Director at Solidigm, where she led strategic initiatives and operations. Her impressive career includes leadership roles at Intel, where she contributed to silicon design and validation programs, Intel's global sustainability mission and initiatives, and technology that enabled immersive media experiences for professional sports internationally. Keri is a graduate of the Evergreen State College in Washington State and subsequently served on their foundation board of governors for 8 years, including 2 years as chair. Join us as we explore Keri's impactful leadership story and insights. So let's get right into it. Keri, what is one decision you made that was a turning point for your leadership?
Hey, Joe, thank you so much for having me today. It's a great honor and a pleasure to spend time with you. And talking about a turning point in my leadership, it's when I decided I could take the initiative to take on projects without my manager's permission or direction, things that were outside the scope of my assigned day job. So, as you're starting in your career, you're given tasks, you do what you're told, don't ask a lot of questions. Well, at some point you start to identify there's issues or gaps in an organization or a company. And I think for me, it's like, well, I don't see anyone else doing anything about this. And as opposed to pointing out problems, I always think it's best to sign up and resolve problems, come to a problem with a resolution or an answer. So it's when I started taking on projects, being able to clearly articulate, like, this is an issue. If we do this, what is the outstanding result that will come after? And then you start getting people joining you. Oh, I want to be part of that. That's something that I want to be part of the solution for. So that doesn't mean you drop your day job. You're still getting paid for your day job. But leadership is when you start taking on those projects and initiatives where you're going it alone and people aren't shutting you down. They start advocating and supporting what you're doing. So it's that shift from being directed to taking the reins.
So double clicking on that, in that process of you trying to figure out, the rules of engagement around that and picking those things up, did you ever experience where you may have stepped on toes or, and then maybe how you dealt with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting. So it happened where I was identifying there's some issues within another organization where I offered to help and provide assistance. And they said, you will never be part of, they just shut you down. And I thought, wow, what a closed-minded way to approach things, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to always achieve to be better? So shutting somebody down who's offering help, that just seems like a really interesting methodology or approach, right? Like, I don't see high hopes for that organization if they can't take in that kind of feedback or offer of assistance.
It's a bit of a red flag from a culture perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, don't ever go work for that group.
Yes, I knew this was going to be an awesome, transparent conversation, Keri. I appreciate this. So question 2, Keri, how do you foster innovation and creativity within your team?
Yeah, I think it's primarily like you're leading with inspiration, passion, and authenticity. And I understand the word authenticity is a bit of a charged buzzword, in the corporate world. And for me, authenticity, I can't even dress up for Halloween because I can't be something who I'm not. So it's pretty easy for me to be authentic. And I think that people can see through authenticity pretty easily. So I'll give an example of how to foster some innovation and creativity. And it was with a large organization. It was over 1,500 people in 5 countries. and we're going to be going through a major organizational shift and change, right? So you're dealing with different languages, different cultures, different experiences. And so I was on the staff of this organization, and I was the only woman on staff. So I'm already coming from a position of, being a minority on the team. I'm a woman on a team of senior engineering male managers. And it was April, which is National Poetry Month in the United States. And I asked the team, the staff, the leaders of this large organization, to each write 2 haiku poems about the organizational change and how they thought it would impact their team, how it might be perceived, just to put themselves in a different position or a different perspective. Okay, these engineering men were not into writing poetry. But with urging, I have passion, I have inspiration. They took trust in me, like, fine, we will give this a try. They could not stop writing poems, right? I kept getting poems for months afterwards. But what it was is getting people comfortable about getting out of their comfort zone. These were not creative writing, poetry, educated people. It's getting people to be open about new perspectives. It gave people a fresh perspective that led to positive results, right? That gave them some thought-provoking ideas. So you can do things that are a little bit unconventional. And if you can be comfortable with that and you can get people to believe, you can also, I think that's one example of getting people creative and innovative about thinking about change.
I really love it. That's super unique or way of doing it, especially in a way that you were doing it with peers or people that you may be working for, I'm assuming, or, kind of pushing them out of their comfort zone, because it's not just your team that you can foster innovation in, it's who you influence also, right?
Yeah, we were actually peers. And so that made it very interesting. We were on the same playing field.
That's interesting. It's not like you could force them to do it. You
Nope.
I love it. That's a really unique way of doing it. I love it. So leading into the next question, Keri, how do you balance driving results with maintaining a positive team culture?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that you don't always have to think about that. Getting results means that things have to be negative, right? But I also think it's important to take into consideration, are you working with an organization or a team that have high morale or low morale? And I think you need to take different approaches depending on where the overall standing of the team is. And I think if you're taking a team that's struggling, you're going to assume that there's not going to be much productivity. You can't expect high productivity from a team that is struggling. And when I say struggling, maybe they don't believe in the vision. Maybe they don't have trust in the executives of the company. Maybe they don't believe in a product that they're working on. That's going to be a challenge. So what you need to do is to balance results while maintaining positive culture. And I think a lot of times this needs to be done by investing time in the human component of the team. So people might think, well, taking aside time for quote unquote culture initiatives, that's a waste of time. Now we're spending time on culture when we need to be getting product out the door. I have always found that investment of time will pay itself back in spades in higher productivity, right? It's a small input and investment for high return. So you can be super demanding about results and get outstanding productivity when people are committed to supporting, enabling one another.
That's good. That's good insight. Leading into the next question. So, Keri, can you describe a moment when you had to make a tough ethical decision?
Yeah, sure. I think I've had my career has mostly been in established corporations, right, that have been around for a long time. So they have very defined practices and policies regarding the boundaries of ethical behaviors and practices, right? So that helps, right? If you're already coming from a place where there's kind of established protocol, you already have that at your back. As a leader, you're also going to be frequently more you're going to have more visibility and firsthand knowledge of situations where ethical boundaries have been crossed. So you're going to, right, this is something that you're going to come across more frequently. And it can be very awkward and challenging to navigate others' unethical behavior.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you have to make a call. Do I look the other way or do I address this? I think ignoring ethical misbehavior is never the right answer. That's going to impact your business. It's going to impact your trust with others. So you need to address it head on. I've had the privilege of being able to count on great colleagues and great HR business partners. Those people who can get an objective point of view, where you can get advice and direction and how to proceed. So I think you need to, you don't ignore it. You have to address it. And man, some of my closest colleagues have been my HR business partners. And they're going to, hopefully, if you're in the right kind of company, they're going to do the right thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a different perspective of how it's been answered before, but I think it's extremely valid because it's not just about the ethical decisions and framework that you have, but how you see others do it and how you handle that also. Because that also just becomes an ethical dilemma for you too. Do I ignore it? Do I not? Right. That's interesting. I like that. And perspective we haven't had before, and I think it's something that I'm glad you brought up. I love it. So next question, Keri, what role does feedback play in your leadership? How do you both give and receive it?
Yeah, giving feedback, and especially if it's a tough message, can be hard when someone's not receptive to it, right? There's got to be an art to it. And I think that feedback should be packaged as a gift, right? That you're giving something to somebody, right? So I think it's also important, if you're invested in your employees, you didn't hire incredibly smart and intelligent people for them to fail. Yeah. You're actually interested in their success. And I think if you can communicate, I am looking out for your best interest and that this is only going to enhance and help you, that I think people will be more receptive to it. So you're not penalizing people. We all make errors and mistakes. You're trying to enhance and improve and make them even better versions of themselves. So you need to balance positive messages with areas of improvement. So it's not, giving feedback needs to be positive, and also providing those gifts of encouragement and the opportunity to see things objectively and provide that feedback to people. People can't fix what they don't know is broken. Mm-hmm. So if people just complain, this person's doing this, that person's doing this, and they keep doing it. Well, if you haven't told them that there's something that they can be doing to improve themselves, how can you expect them to change? That's right. Good. You have to give them the opportunity. Now, if somebody chooses to ignore it and then they continue to have bad behaviors or, have areas of improvement that they don't want to address, that's a different issue. Maybe they need to be in a new opportunity. I also think if you can't take feedback, you're missing out on free gifts, right? It goes both ways. None of us are above doing or being better. And a lot of times I don't wait for feedback. I will proactively request feedback. I'll be in a meeting individually with one of my peers or a more senior person or, perhaps somebody else in the team. And I will ask them, if there's something I'm doing that you think would be better, please let me know. If you think I'm going down a wrong path, please correct me now, right? Let's address it today. Let's not wait. So I think, these are gifts of feedback, and it goes both ways.
Yeah, it's good. I like the feedback as a gift. I like that. And so next question, Keri. How do you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I think it's embracing the fact that you're not infallible, right? I always have room to be better. So I think that goes back to your previous question about feedback, right? Being open to feedback. I'm always got opportunity to improve. And second, I'm a lifelong learner, right? I remain curious and open to new ideas. I'm energized when I'm expanding my knowledge into new areas. as soon as I really like hard, gnarly problems, right? That's what excites me the most. The messier, the uglier, sign me up. And as soon as the hard problem's been solved, or I figured it out, or I've gained expertise in something, I need something new and challenging to expand my growth. And third, I rely on my network. Building a strong network of trusted allies, you can accomplish so much more than going it alone. So many of my closest friends are people who I met through work. And over the course of years, we've all grown into leadership roles, and we know we can look to one another for advice, right? These are my trusted allies. When I need a sounding board, these are the people in my inner circle who I know I can rely on for counsel. If I'm feeling defeated, they'll help pick me up, and they're always going to be honest with me. So I think it's, embracing that you're not infallible, being a lifelong learner, and using your network.
Those are all good and very actionable points, and that everyone should take to heart for sure. Keri, what leadership book has influenced you the most, and why?
Yeah, so I'm always coming from things from a new perspective and angle, and this is true for this as well. So I love reading. I grew up without a television. I got one when I was in college. Reading was very important, central to my life. And when you talk about leadership books specifically, I have colleagues who are leaders that I admire who are really into reading business books. And what I've taken a different approach. That I have read business books about leadership. They can be very interesting and informative, but I've been more intentional recently about reading books by non-white, non-straight authors that have lived experiences that are not like my own.
Interesting.
Right? And so if you're going to be a leader, you're working with teams made up, I should hope, of a diverse group of people, and you want to be inclusive. Yeah. So my education growing up was, kind of this selective historical narrative that gave me a pretty narrow perspective about, how the real world operates. This is up in Western Washington. And I think it's important not to continue to be naive. So based on that, there's some nonfiction books I've read in that realm more recently that have helped inform me and given me a broader perspective. So one of those, so you want to talk about race. This is by Ijeoma Aluo, right? And this is about her experience being in the tech world as a Black woman, about race across the country, challenges that people have faced. That's pretty straight up. I'm going to tell you, a painful book to read as a privileged white woman, but provided a lot of insight to other people's experiences. Yeah. Another book, Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson, about the injustice of incarcerated men. He's a public defender taking on cases for people with life sentences and have turned those around. I thought justice was fair. There's a law, there's a court. I was woefully misinformed and taught about that. The Inconvenient Indian. This is about an indigenous North Native American individual about what's happened to indigenous people in North America. So that's fascinating as well. So some of these can be hard and difficult reading, but you can also learn from lighter fiction or nonfiction as well. Better Living Through Birding by Christian Cooper. So, right, he was made famous for the incident in New York City in Central Park for being accosted by somebody while birding. It turns out that this is a gay man who's Black and is really into birds. I love birds, and giving me another unique experience and perspective.
Interesting.
So very non-traditional, perhaps, answer to what you were looking for.
Yeah.
But I think reading this material has given me a better education, a deeper understanding of how other people's experiences can affect them in the workplace. And it's very different than mine, and I need to be understanding and open to that.
That's Again, I truly appreciate how different you think of these questions. So, like, people talk about their leadership style, and something I've learned in my leadership journey is you don't necessarily you have like a style, but ultimately, us as leaders, we have to be inclusive, right? We have to understand where our people are coming from and where their
Absolutely.
backgrounds are, and really mold to what they need to be successful, right? I think there's some core foundational things that you can do. Like for me, I'm an empathetic person. I look at Myers Briggs, and I'm an F in the a feeler, which sometimes isn't the case in the leadership world. And but it for me, I feel like it's almost impossible to be an effective and thoughtful leader unless you have that empathy from somewhere, from something, right? And that's a great way. That's what you're saying is a great way to expose yourself to that, to just experience other people's pressures and stresses and life. Thank you for answering it that way. It's really good. You're opening in my mind as we speak in regards to how we can grow as leaders. This is awesome. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah,
You're welcome. Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
awesome. Well, Keri, that was the last question. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being willing to be part of this podcast and what we're doing here. Awesome. It's because I think I told you this already, and people will see this as the guest list come out, but all through the next like August is all women leaders in tech, which is great. I think it's great to expose the next generation of possible women leaders that technology is an area that they can focus on and grow in, and so it's awesome to see powerful women like yourself being part of this and putting that out there. So it's awesome that you're able to speak into these lives and hopefully influence folks to come in this direction. It was so much fun having Keri as a guest today. I love how she tells it how it is and holds nothing back. I really appreciated how she looked at each of the questions differently and shared her own unique perspective. Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of A Leader Story. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe to help more people discover these inspiring leadership stories. And don't forget to tune in every Tuesday for new episodes. See you next week, and keep writing your own unique leadership story.